Why commercial? Why would you invest into commercial property? The number one reason is cash flow. You get cash flow in commercial property. Hi, my name is Somen Mondal, and in this video, I am going to share with you why commercial, particularly how you can purchase a commercial property. If you want to know, then stick around. All right, so why commercial? As I said, it is cash flow, right? Now let's understand this for a moment. Why commercial property has more cash flow than the residential property? One of the reason is that the commercial property rent is plus outgoings and the residential property rent is minus outgoings. What are outgoings? So outgoings are the expenses that you have to pay in order to hold your property, such as if you have a commercial property where there is a building, of course some sort of improvement, that means there will be an insurance for that building, right? There will be council rates, there will be water rates, all these things called outgoings, and these outgoings are paid by the tenant in commercial property. So which is why you need to understand that the commercial property rent you get to keep more versus residential property rent. I also want you to understand that not today, if you buy a property 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line, these council rates, insurance and all, it will be paid by the landlord for all the time in residential properties. It's not going to change. So that means it's not today, tomorrow, day after tomorrow, every time, whenever these bills will come, you as a landlord will have to pay for residential properties. When it comes to commercial, you can pass it on to the tenant, and that is how you get to keep more money in your bank account. And that's the reason, number one reason, commercial property is lucrative. Commercial property is cash flow positive. Commercial property is making money from day one. Now let's talk about what is happening now. Right now this is 2026 and the government is bringing lot of different reforms in terms of the tax, and more importantly, in fact most controversial, which is the negative gearing benefits, right? What government is saying, that if you are purchasing an established property, residential property, then you cannot get that negative gearing benefit anymore, period. Coming to a law, if it comes to the law, then of course that is going to be going forward, things like that. So in other words, if you purchase a residential property, you are not going to get that benefit as a negative gearing. So most of the residential property, you will see that your cost of holding that property is higher, hence it is the whole purpose of buying that residential property is that you can offset with your personal salary and can get that tax rebate. Now government said that it is cannot be possible, but let me tell you, this is still possible in commercial property. So government have not touched the rule of commercial property, it is only the residential property. What does it mean? Like you can buy a big block of land with a commercial property with a future holding that the land value is going to go up, and you are buying, let's say, as part of that is a negative gearing because land is too big and the rental return is not coming, then you can offset with your personal salary. And this could be a significant, depends on which stage you are and how much you want to control and hold the commercial property. It will be a lucrative investment for you, because now what you cannot do this in residential, now you can do this in commercial. Earlier also it was there, but because the residential were available, most people were looking for residential. Now things will be shifted, more and more people will come into commercial, because commercial property you can buy negative cash flow property. That is one of the significant change that you need to understand, and this is coming as well. Okay, so that's there, right? So you understood. The second part that I wanted to talk about is that why commercial property has more cash flow, cause the outgoings. The second part is that think about the tenant. A residential property tenant is always someone in general who is not able to afford their own home, or they cannot purchase their own home, hence they are renting. When it commercial property is the business people who are running business, and because they're running business, they're making money, right? The whole purpose of doing business is to make money. So cost for them is to pay rent, so their cost, and you as a landlord is the income, which is why as long as they are making money, they are happy to pay the rent a little bit more, which is your income as a landlord. Residential property, they want to pay bare bare minimum. Commercial property depends on the property and the location, and more importantly how viable it is, and the tenant is happy to pay a little bit more. So which is why commercial property rent is generally higher as compared to residential property, period. This is, I'm comparing apple to apple right here, because there are a lot you need to understand. In commercial property, you need to read through the lease, what's written in the lease, how long is the lease, and based on that every year how much rent is going to increase, everything is written in the lease. So which is one of the reason that commercial property people invest into commercial property to get better cash flow, because all the outgoings will be paid by the tenant, and you have also the negative gearing benefit on top of it, which you do not have anymore, assuming that it goes passed by law for residential property. These are the reason people are choosing for commercial property. Remember, like any investment, there will be risk, but make sure that when you are purchasing a commercial property, you do the proper due diligence. You make sure that you go through the complete checklist of due diligence. And if you don't know how this due diligence can be done, by all means drop a comment in this video, and then we would be able to create another video where all the due diligence items, so that you understand more about commercial property. My goal is to help people to get into more and more into commercial, because that's what I see where people would be able to get more cash flow. Remember, if your goal is to get cash flow, then commercial is the way to go. Residential is not going to give. Government is trying to make sure that people focus more and more into newer builds for residential, or focus more into commercial. I hope this video gives you some clarity about why commercial, why people are investing in commercial. If you have any questions, by all means put in the comment section, and please if you subscribe this channel, so that it motivates me a lot to create this kind of videos, to spread the message, and more importantly to show that what is possible. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.